Right, okay, so plan of action. I have got down in front of me, if I go here, I've got some bits which came from a beautiful res kit that I'm not using. So we're going to use them for some demoing. So what I thought was I would show you a generic, not done for this particular aircraft, because obviously we don't need to worry about it, but show you a generic Wilwell and how I do it. So what we're going to do, we're going to paint these green. We're going to do some post shading with it. Then we're going to give it a wash. Then we're going to give it a dry brush, and then we're going to pick out some details. And we're going to do this over the course of today, basically, going right the way through. Okay, so again, it's one of those things. I know it's personal ones of which way you're going to be doing these and all the rest of it. So what I'm going to work with is, I'm going to find all my paints now. We're going to go with a sort of generic interior green, if I can find one. Hold on one second, because my paints are never in order, as we all know. For an interior type color, he says, where is my, he says, oh my god, I can't find me paint.
Just use XF4.
Yeah. I have got down in here, I've got cream no mate, hold on, let me just find it. I just wanted to find the other interior cockpit green, to be honest. God, you know what, I should have prepped this before. I've got one here somewhere. I was looking at it.
You got an XF5, Phil?
Yes, I do. I have got all other colours. It's not a problem. I'm just probably going to go with a generic type green down in here, like an olive drab or something, you know. I think that'll be probably the easiest way to do this. So
Andy's now looking at his paint rack.
I know. Could you send it over, Andy? Because clearly I'm going to need it. Right. Okay. So if we just pop in here 1 second and change cameras to in there. Right. Okay. Let me just grab a. Where's olive drab? There we go.
Hey Andy, know what his next chore is? Finding a clean airbrush.
Oh, shush now. It's fine. I cleaned it out yesterday. It's all right.
You could use the cricket.
Jesus, only if I want to blast everything. Okay.
Well, pull out the old Harder and Steam back, see if it still works.
Still, what, if I can fire it up and all the rest of it?
Yeah, see if the Evo still works after all these years.
Okay.
I think mine sprays at right angles.
Probably is what this thing would do if it did it. Okay.
I've been using mine recently, but when I first got it out and sprayed it, it was like spraying up like that. That's not right.
Goes round corners.
Yeah, I was going to say it goes round corners. That's what I do. Right. Okay. So have my airbrush. All right. So we've just got this little guy here. Hopefully you can still hear me. Can you just confirm everyone can still hear me?
Yeah.
I can.
Fine for us.
Yeah. Well, if it's fine for you, it'll be fine for them as well. Right. Okay. So we're just going to dial down our air pressure a little bit. Mac valve on the bottom, see? This is my £20 Fengo, everyone. Just saying. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of thinners, just a drop or two, just down in here, to check the fantastic flow, and it's even going in the right direction. So we're just lubricating all the movie bits and the nozzle, clearly. That's all good. Right. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to do a bit of olive drab and we'll work it around a bit. So we take our olive drab. All right. I'm going to be good. Let me find a clean one. And I'm going to do a matte way. I'm going to put a little bit in the colour cut. Oh, that one, the lump that just fell in. Anyway. All right. So then we're going to mix it with a bit of thin earth. It's going to be quite a thick mix, this one, because it's just going down straight forward onto here. So we'll just give this a bit of a mix. And because it's not the right colour, what we're going to do is just going to add a tiny bit of yellow into it. Give it a stick. Ooh, it's off. All right, so we're just going to take a tiny bit of yellow. We're just going to grab a bit and we're going to add it into here, just to lighten the green. So using the old primary colour tables and all the rest of it, adding yellow it's not like adding white or grey where it obviously just washes out the colour. it will just change the green hue a little bit. All right, then we're going to take our mix, pop it in our airbrush. Lid on, always put your lids on. Check our flow. Happy with the flow, sounds good. I'm not going to do a full airbrush demo and all the rest of it because we've done those loads of times before, but obviously listening for your airbrush. So when you pull the trigger, if you just push down, no pull, then pull your trigger, it should be the same pitch. You want to hear it the same. If it suddenly goes really quiet, it means your airbrush is struggling. So you might want to turn up your air pressure just a little bit. But you want to hear the paint coming out, which is fine, but it shouldn't go quiet because what it means is your air is struggling to get out. Your paint's a little bit too thick. All right. So with this one done, we're just going to come along and we're just going to put a coat down on here. And again, making sure you come back through with all the angles so you don't get any grey bits on the edges and stuff. All right, there's one. Then come back and do the other. Two. And we're just going to do down in here. A bit more tricky to get everywhere around, but hey ho, we'll be fine. All right, that's pretty good. All right, so that's your first coat on. Just hold your ears for 2 seconds. I'm just going to evacuate the room of everything, all air. All right, so these are on here. As you can see, this one is drying already. Let's zoom the camera in just a little bit. There we go. All right, as you can see, it's drying. So what we're going to do is we're going to lighten that out a bit. So we're going to use the paint that we've got in here. So what we're going to do now is, we'll just put this in a holder. We're going to grab our paint. And we're going to take a nice generous dollop of yellow. We're going to put it in here. 2 brush balls. And we're going to give this a nice go over. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to exaggerate it a little bit because obviously trying to show it on camera, it's going to be quite different. So we're going to take 2 more. So you've got a nice high contrast so you can see. All right. So those go in there like that. Then we need to rethin it because obviously we've added some paint. Plus the fact we want to rethin it anyway because this is going to be a very fine job in here. So your paint's going to have to be a little bit thinner and all the rest of it. So we're going to add a little bit more thinners. Then we're going to mixy. And hopefully we'll get a nice good contrast so you can see it. Normally, as you say, you won't probably contrast this quite as much as I have, but I want to do it so you can see it. Easiest way I can tell if my paint's the right thickness, I can see my bristles come through on the actual brush itself. All right. Then we need to blow through now that original colour because it's going to be in the airbrush. So we'll just blow that through. Hopefully you can see it goes from the original colour to our new colour. We're going to turn down the air pressure because we don't want to be blowing it everywhere. All right. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change my glasses to so that I can see out. Oh. Okay, so rule of thumb, we're lightening up the panel, so we want to do the centers of the areas. So obviously I'm going to put it one in each of these. We're going to go between the riveting along here and down in here and between. Anywhere that's got raised details is going to be more shadowed and grime because when we come back with a wash, it will accumulate in those areas. And then what we're going to do, those areas will go darker, but when we dry brush it, the tips of it will go lighter. So again, it's all of this, I call it stage makeup. You know, it's basically the way of tricking people. So if you think about it, when performers are on stage, they have makeup that's stronger so you can see the features as they're talking and smiling and doing all the things from at the back of the theatre. So you're doing the same thing as well. So you're exaggerating everything that's on here. All right. So I just need to reseat my needle. So what happened there was that I pulled the needle. If I do it on here, it might do it again. When I pull, I get a spit, and it's spitting. What it is, the needle on the airbrush is not sitting perfectly in. There's a little bit of movement. So what we do is we just come back, give it a tap, and just a few taps to your finger, and you're just reseating the needle to stop anything spitting when you introduce air. So when you come in for air, you see you get the big spat. That's because obviously we pulled the needle. If we come in now, we're getting nothing. So again, it's just those little tips and tricks. All right, so down in these areas, so we're just gonna those middle areas you can see. In between these, a little bit in that, and in between these. All right, so you can see it's quite a high contrast, which to be honest, it is a little bit too contrasty. All right, but there's a way to sort of knock that back in a minute. All right, so you could just do it like that. What I'm going to do is, because it is quite a contrast and it's a little bit more we wanted, I'm going to put this back in here, and we're just going to mix this as one, and on the other one it should come out about right in theory. And I wanted it contrasty, but not quite that much. All right, so we pop that in there, just a dribble, tiny bit of thinners, just to thin it down a little bit. Mix. So on the next one, it should be fine. And what I do is I overcoat the first one. So again, on here. So again, now you can see it sort of coming back. All right. So if I do it in this one, you should see what we're trying to achieve here. That's better. That's more what we're after. All right, so I'll just overcoat this one a second. And again, if you want to blend over like that, literally just do the entire thing and just give it a nice quick coat right over it. Then we dry this down, so we just cut into air and we'll dry it all off a little bit and we'll get the contrast. And say the camera on this camera is not as good as some of the others that I've got in the studio, so it's always going to look slightly different on this one. But again, same in here. So we've got between this riveting, it's a little bit more difficult to get in here because of all the stuff.
You can definitely see the contrast on camera.
Yeah, I know. On this camera, it should be a bit better because that camera I know, but you can see this is obviously the one that was a little bit, and I've overcoated it now. We've knocked it back a little bit. And again, you can see it on this one is more akin to what we were after. And again, we've got it down in here. So you're just giving that sort of, effect. So again, think of it as I say, like pantomime makeup. It's one of those ones. You're sort of exaggerating everything just a little bit. But as this dries down, it will fade. It won't stay just like this. It just fades in really very, very nicely. All right. So with those ones down and in there now, what we're going to do, we're going to give it a tiny little bit of a wash. All right. So for the wash, we will be using, and Matt's going to have to correct me on the names and everything, because I know they've changed them now. We are going to use a bit of the old, whatever they call it these days, because unfortunately they have changed the name, haven't they, Matt?
They've changed and dropped. What you got there?
This is smoke. Yeah.
I think smoke might still be, if they still do smoke. I can't remember what they dropped and what they didn't, because they dropped some really good ones. But yeah, it's probably still smoke on the new 502s. Yeah. I'd have to check, to be honest. Go on.
So again, the big thing is, don't forget, this is technically a sepia. So if you haven't got smoke or any colours like this, sepia is basically the one you want. But this is what I use for grime. Another good one, to be honest. I don't know, have they still got Starship Filth, Matt?
Yes, they have. We haven't. We've sold out, but yes, we have.
Oh, right,
Can I
okay.
just jump in a minute there?
Yeah.
Now you said about the sepia oil paint. If you
Yeah.
need one oil paint in your range,
Yeah.
get the sepia one.
Yeah,
it just works with anything. I think the smoke's pretty good as well for it, but sepia or a sepia wash as well.
Yes.
If you need, even if it's an enamel wash, get a sepia. It's just one of them colours that is just so universal. It's
Which I'll be honest with you, our wash, the dark dirt, is based off of sepia. It's sepia is 90%, and it's got 10% of something else in it, because sepia is the jack of all trades one. So yeah.
We don't sell this yet, but it will be coming actually to the store when I do another AK order, because I've used it on the thing and it's a brilliant wash, this sepia pin wash, to be honest.
Yeah.
So if you're lazy and can't be asked to mix your own oil washes.
Yes. Which is,
it's convenient, isn't it? It's convenient.
Yeah, of course it is.
So.
Yeah. Okay, so what we're going to do is I'm going to grab 2 brushes. God, I tell you what, my eyes are so bad. I need to be like that guy at the repair shop, 2 pairs of glasses on my head. I am to that stage in my life. Okay, so I've got a normal...
Sorry, mate. I was going to say your eyesight has deteriorated really quick, hasn't it?
It has. It's gone completely now. I can't do anything without glasses. Full stop. You know, I say I'm great at range, but anything close, I keep seeing me eye blokey, and he was like, "Oh, you're fine. Just wear your readers." It's like, really? God, I've got a microscope attached to my head. All right, I've got 2 brushes. I've got a nice thin one and a bigger flat one for doing bigger areas. What we're going to do, we're going to take I've got here just some X20, which is enamel thinners. You could use other thinners, which I can't find what I've done with it. Which is, there we go, is this one. A good quality low odor thinners. The easiest way to describe it, low odor thinners means it's highly refined. All right, don't use B&Q's own rough cut thinners for cleaning your brushes, because it won't work. You need a really nice, good quality thinners. If it's low odor, it means it's been refined a lot more than normal thinners. So that's what I would go with. So we're going to take a couple of mil. We're not going to need much, because obviously we're doing something quite small. So we've probably got 2 mil down in there. Then we're going to come along with our brush, and we're just going to take a little bit, probably too much, half a pea type of thing on a brush, and then literally we're just going to come in and we're going to put it in here. Now this sepia color that they do here, this shadow, they've made it up of 2 colors. They've basically made it up of black and brown, which is what sepia is at the end of the day, but it separates rapidly, and I'll show you in a second. All right, so we brush all this over, get rid of all the lumps, make sure you got no lumps. All right.
Simon says, why are you using Abtalog instead of your own wash?
Because we're doing a very, very delicate wash on little details like this. Oil washes capillarize and flow a lot better than mine. Mine will dry back slightly gritty, and also for what we're going to do next, the dry brushing right over it, if you're using the normal wash, you might move the wash around because you're going to be rubbing the hell out of it. So for doing delicate small jobs like this type of work, which is technically pin washing, then I would use an oil. I find it just works better, all right, than normal. Okay.
I've got a question.
Go on.
You know your bit you're going to pre-wash?
Yes.
Do you pre-dampen it up with terps or white spirit, whatever, before you actually add the pin wash, or you just go straight in dry?
Because to break up I'm the surface
tension.
Yes. So there's 2 ways of doing it. We could do both, actually. I'll do one with and one without, and you can see the difference. Because I'm here, I want to keep it really localized to the areas I want. I'm going to go in dry. Yeah. Okay. If we wanted to go in like this other one down in here, what we'll do down in here, I'll prep it and show the both different ways of doing it. If you want it to go a little bit more everywhere, I would prep the area. If you're doing rusting work, for instance, I always prep the area, because you get streaking and nice things with it and weathered look. So if you wanted streaking, for instance, and stuff like that, I would always prep the area. So by that mean we would actually brush on thinners on here first, then come in with the wash, and then naturally it will go to all the areas where you want. Up here, what I'll do it on this one, I want it to be more localized, so I'm going in dry. All right. So as we've been talking, you might have noticed this here has now gone brown. See what I mean? But if I do this, you can see the black. So it will split. It does it because they make up their color out of two. They make it out of black and brown to make a sepia, and it does separate. So you can see, stir it up, and you need to continuously mix it as you're using it. Otherwise what will happen is you'll be pulling up black or brown and not each. So always keep it moving as you're going. All right. So with that done, we will switch over to a small brush. All right. So we're just going to take, sorry, let me just move that over there a second. I'll put that there so you can see. It's a bit of trouble when you do it on a small scale like this. Let me move things out of the way in case they knock them over. All right, so you can see it's splitting already. All right, so just keep it mixing and all the rest of it. Take a little bit on your brush. And then what we're going to do, we're going to pop it in certain areas. So obviously we want to come in and we want to go around the edges. So we're just going to tap it in the edges and we're going to let it naturally run itself all the way round. All right. So again, we're just going to pop in like these and we're going to flood them in a little bit. So you can see you've got a really heavy one in here, got a lighter one down in here. That's fine because we'll come back to it in a minute. All right. And then again, we're just going to pop it around in these areas, around the riveting bits, and we're going to let it grab all these. So we're going to come in between these because these are going to be darker because you're imagining these will be more grimy. All right, then what we're going to do is we're literally just going to touch, and you can see it naturally zips off because it's following along with all the raised areas and things like that. And there you go. Then we come back in with these ones and we're just going to go around. Okay, so this guy over here has got too much in. So what we're going to do, we're going to take a bit out. So we're just going to use that one elsewhere. So we just come in, take it away. All right, so again, just going to pop a bit down in here. And obviously we're going to come down these rivets. So we're following the rivet lines basically. And we're just going to go everywhere. And again, we're going to pop all around the outsides of these ones. And as you can see, it's starting to do its bit. It's a little bit dry in the middle, but it will capillarize and it will cover over. All right. So again, we're just going to have a bit off the bottom here. Going to pop it around and we'll let those run everywhere and do all the things. And we're just going to come down in here and add a little bit more in. And as I say, it brings up really nice levels. These bits here you're going to see anyway, but all right. So that's those. What you can do as well, if you really want to darken it up, you can take the original color and you can mix in with it. So you can take a little bit of neat oils and just feed it into these areas as well to go through. But again, it's personal choice. This will dry back lighter. So what we're going to do, we're going to leave this and come back to it a little bit later on when it's dried. All right, and go right the way through. So that's that one. The other one as well, if you take a little bit of your stuff, all right, knocking most of it off your brush, what we're going to do is we're just going to follow the lines and we're just going to pop it round in these sort of corners of where this riveting is. All right, so the most of the oils will be in those said areas, so you're just tracking them. And again, right the way over. And then obviously we've got lots of mechanical stuff and stuff down in here. Some of it we will pick out, but for the moment we're just coming in with oils just to cause. And all you're doing with this oil wash like this is we're staining. We're just putting little stains and various things in, and it will cling around nuts, bolts and things. So again, you're just thinking this gear is probably going to be quite dirty, so it's going to get quite a bit in here. And you can build it up. You can put more in. So again, we're just going to pop it down quite a bit in these areas. All the way through. There we go, down on the back here. got this fabric pad at the back, so we're going to wash it right the way over so it gets caught in the texture. All right, so you've got various things going on in there. All right, and because this is an oil, it's going to take a while to dry. It's going to take a good couple of hours, but we can do all of that. So what Matt was saying about is this: if you prep the area first, if you're doing it, you want this to be a bit thicker, because what happens is as soon as you touch this on a wet area, it will just go everywhere. So again, you need to make your mix just a little bit thicker for this one, which we can do. But for the moment, let me just grab that and that. All right, so I'm just going to brush over the entire thing here with thinners. All right, so this is just thinners onto this. So you're prepping all the surfaces for it going on. All right. So that's all in there. Then what we will do is I will take another dish and just grab a little bit of thinners and into here. And we're just going to thicken this just a little bit. Oh look, we use a different one as well. Let's grab a little bit more of this into here. Okay. And there you go. We'll go to a smaller brush because we want to be a little bit more delicate on this. A little bit thicker. So this is the Starship Filth. Doesn't separate as much as the other one, and this one's got a funny hue to it. But it's a good funny hue. So again, same thing is down in here. We can actually just do various ones, but you'll notice it all flows a lot nicer. Again, we're just going over the rivet heads because it will cling to it nicely. And again, we will do it just around some of these mechanical bits. A little bit down in here because it's gnarly. You got mechanical bits, so I'm assuming it would have bits down in there as well. A little bit of something going down in there. And again, we're just going to pop it over those rivet heads. And we'll be a little bit more targeted just down in around the edges on this one. So again, so we're just causing artificial things over there, just down on there. And you can build up more layers if you wanted to. I'll just put a little splice on the edge. You guess what it is yet? Oh, can't do that joke anymore. All right. There we go. Something like that, Matt, yeah?
Yeah, you're just breaking the surface tension, aren't you? It just makes it flow better, the wash, that's all.
Yeah.
Again, because you've not put a clear coat on it, because I bet people are going to ask, why don't you just clear coat it, put a satin on it, or a gloss or whatever, because that's pretty matte surface, isn't it? But I think, you know, the joy of using an oil wash is it's low surface tension, basically.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why enamel washers are used. So you get that nice effect. I think as well with oils, you can get a lot more effects and staining than you can with an enamel wash. An enamel wash is a pin wash. But to me, a pin wash is what, like I think I've said it in probably one of my videos, is probably one of the most powerful weathering steps you can do.
Yeah, absolutely.
It just makes things pop.
Yes,
it just.
I think the difference is what it does, especially if you combine it with other things like dry brushing, it really makes everything sort of really pop, because again, we're talking that sort of makeup, aren't we? Stage makeup. So from a distance, you see the smallest of details where normally you wouldn't see them. They'd be lost in the you know, the sort of the background of everything that's going on. So you're just bringing things to the forefront. So all of this riveting down in here, which as you're looking at there, you can't really see, but if you maneuver it in the light, suddenly you can see that riveting. What will happen when we do the dry brushing, that will all pop back up, because you will then see all the riveting because suddenly it's highlighted. So it gives you more depth as you're looking down on these things. But what we'll do is we will leave this to dry until this afternoon, and then we'll come back in with dry brushing, and then we'll come back in with pens and various things to pick out wiring and pencils and various things as well, to really bring it to life and make it all pop, you know. But again, the thing is with this, you do need to let it dry and not get too much on top of it, or the layers need to physically dry. Otherwise what happens is if you come along with and it's not dry, it'll interact with the one before it, and it just sort of goes to pot all over itself. So yes, just flick your other cam back on.
Yeah. So, right, you're basically dealing with light and shadows, aren't you? Really? That's what you're doing. Yeah. You're enhancing the shadows and bringing up the light. So you've got that 3D effect. It's, you know, it's similar to fine artists, what they do. I would do it probably exactly the same as you. But you think about what you've just done there. You've lightened up the recess bits.
Yes.
And you've got darker highlights. Do you know what I mean? Yes. Technically, you should flip it so what you've lightened really should be the dark bits and the other way. But it don't kind of work in the 3D modelling bit very well, does it?
Yeah, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But also a tip as well, if you are pin washing and stuff, this is a colour thing as well. You've got to go a lot lighter. Than the actual base color you're using, because the pin washes and the effects you're going to put over will naturally darken it back, and then you will lose any contrast. And it is all about the contrast game, isn't it, when you're doing this sort of thing?
Definitely. Yeah.
So you really got to exaggerate it. Probably, you know, you've dialed that back a little bit. Where personally, I would have left it.
Yeah, you could have
left it really, really contrasted, because I know then. You know, with the washers and everything else you're going to put on top, it will just pull it all back together, and you've still got a little bit of contrast. Because I don't think nothing worse than I've fell into this trap so many times, is you think I've really overdone it here, it's going to look awful, and then you put your washers on, you put your weathering on, and you've just lost it. Just goes, and it goes back to, well, why didn't I just really punch it and push it?
Yes.
And have a little bit of a leap of faith. But again, certain colours work better. Greens work well, browns work well, greys work well. When you get to dark blue, like what's it called, the US Air Force dark, you know, navy colour, the proper dark, you're struggling then, because you can change it too much, the colour. It's a real balance to get that to look still the same as you want it to, but actually give it some contrast as well, because you're tempted just to go light, aren't you? A lot lighter, which then washes it out. You kind of lose the colour. So again, I think, like you say, the greens, the browns, and the greys are probably the easiest colours to work with this sort of thing to get the effect you want. So
yeah, I think again, it's one of those things. A lot of it is personal choice, and I know down in chat somebody's saying, like User41 saying, if you use oil wash with a varnish, it would be better. I disagree completely. I think it works better on its own, because again, we're dealing with texture. So from my point of view, what I want it to do is the oil to cling to the micro surface around everything. Where if you had it as on a gloss surface, it's only going to shoot back to all the raised areas, because it will cling to various areas. I want this to be grubby even on a flat bit. So again, you're causing it on a micro level. Just the big flat areas have got texture, and it's going to get caught into it. So it's naturally wearing everything together rather than specific. If I wanted to do bolt heads and you wanted to just do areas, then a gloss coat. But what I'm trying to achieve here is like a wheel well, which is like dirty and grimy all in there, all in one, rather than have to go round. And also I'm trying to show it in basically 3 steps. You know, paint it, pre-shade it, and oil wash it, gives us this, and then we're just going to dry brush it and then detail it, and that's it. So again, without having to do too much work, it's a quick, easy. I suppose this is very much a case of when I used to do the commission work. You can achieve something that looks really, really good with minimal work. And again, I suppose one of I wouldn't say bugbears, but one of my things is sometimes I see people and they take days to achieve that. because they're using hundreds of different techniques. And to me, it's like, why wouldn't you just go that and that? I'm just trying to show you the simplest and quickest way to achieve something that looks really, really nice. But if you want to go through and do a million layers on it and pick out every rivet by hand, that's part of the hobby. You can do all of that. But I'm just simply saying, I'm trying to show you something just quick and easy and an effective way of using it. And as I said, the thing is with the hobby, obviously, you know, YouTube's a classic one for it. There's thousands of different ways to achieve roughly the same thing. I'm just showing you one of a bag full of tricks that people use for this type of thing.
Sorry, Andy, I'm going to have to argue back, not against you, against gloss coating using oils. It is a real unnecessary step, because the surface tension on oil paint is so different that you don't need to do it. If you pre-dampen it, like Phil did, it will then just run naturally into all the recesses. You won't have to, you know, if you've got a nice glossy coat, like you say, all it will do, but it won't grip either. There's just nothing there to the oil to grip to. It hasn't got that that power to grip, basically.
For me, I think the glossy coat goes back to using old artist paints, oils, when we used to like do pin washes, say on armour. And if you did it on a matte coat with the old ones, they sort of like were gritting, sort of like they capillarise and leave stains.
Yeah, you got
round areas.
Yeah, you got that horrible. Yeah.
Whereas if you did it the old way on a gloss coat, you could localize it. But now we've got better oils, proper modeling oils that are finer grit. It's sort of like, like you said, it's taken away that sort of that need to gloss, hasn't it?
But again, oils, because they take so long to dry, they're easy to clean up.
Yeah.
And that's the downside to these. These are really convenient, but like you say, these will leave tea staining. And these really do need a satin coat. You can't really use these on a matte coat unless you've got a lot of control, because they will stain and you can't clean it off because they're really highly pigmented. And they're preset. What you've got in here is what you've got to work with. Where an oil paint is, you can leave it as thick or as thin as you want. And again, that what Phil's put on there will not dry as stark as what it looks when it's wet. It will really dye back. And that's another, I wouldn't say a downside to oil paints, but it's one of them where it can catch you out a little bit, because you think, oh, I've got really strong pin wash, and you leave it an hour when it's all evaporated and it's all dry, and it's just a shadow of it, what you probably expected it to be. But yeah, oil paints are a different beast to enamel washes and everything else. They're so more versatile in that respect. And like I say, I definitely wouldn't be putting a clear coat over it.
Just
the trouble I find
is,
sorry, go on, Andy. Yeah, go.
Couple questions in chat. David says 2 different oil wash techniques. When would you use one over the other? So
the pre-washed one. I tell you what I love about the pre-washed one. If I'm doing helicopters and things like that, I love to give them that sort of proper motley, grimy type look. But the great thing about it, if you pre-wash it first, if you put like, you know, just brush on enamel thinners, and then you come along and just do like literally touching it around different surfaces, bolts, things like that, what happens is that because it's pre-done everywhere, it will flow. And you get little streaks come down on its own, and it's brilliant because you don't actually have to touch it. It's one of those things, you get like rust streaks and things like that. You can literally just pre-do the area, give it a touch of red rust, and let it track naturally south as it would in real life, because it is exactly doing what real life does. It's water with the rust pigment in it, and that's what's staining your surfaces. But it works great for oil streaks and for watermarks, because it is literally doing it as it goes. So for pre-doing it is it. One of the biggest ones I did with it was the aircraft carrier. To get those rust stains, I literally went along, pre-did it with enamel thinners, kept it on its side, and I was coming in with like rust pigments and just touching it and letting it flow and follow as it would. And then if it's too strong, just knock a little bit of sepia over the top of it sometimes, you know, or vice versa as well. It's absolutely fantastic for it. Again, it's one of those, if you pre-do the area, if you're doing a big area like a cockpit, you can pre-do the entire thing and then just go around and almost touching and let it ping, and it filters off all on its own. Whereas obviously if you're doing it dry, you have to lead where you want it to go. So again, if you're doing bigger stuff, I would always do it like Matt was saying, pre-do the area. If you're doing like selective, you want to keep it in nice little areas, you know, doing it that way. But I was just going to say, I think the thing with oils, or certainly my thing with oils, are using oils now, is that it's such a fine thing. It's not in your face. Oils will never be in your face like this. It will just give you that ability to have like a grime, very faint grime, like you see on normal things, inside armor, floors of things, have that type of just that hue. And it gives it really naturally. And because the way oils work, it's very much mimicking life, because it will cling to areas and it does go in recesses and all those things. And it's just a quick and easy way of doing it. It's already starting to dry off here. Look.
Well, again, don't you think it's a safe way of actually weathering? Because if you don't like it, because it's such a slow drying time, you can just clean it all off, or you can move it and manipulate it. You can manipulate it a lot more. If you left that for 2 hours, 3 hours, you could still come back and go, well, I'm not overly happy with that, so I'll just use a dampened brush. The other thing is as well, if you're cleaning up, don't use a really wet paintbrush, just a real damp. You don't need a lot.
No. But hopefully you can see what I'm trying to achieve. You see these areas around these rivets where it's naturally staying, but it's not like it's just around the rivets. It's fading into the areas around it. And up in here, you can see it's quite dark, these areas here. And that's literally what I'm trying to achieve, is not to have it where it's just on the rivets. I want it to bleed almost into the flat areas around it. So you've got that natural type of look to it. So that bit where we've put it around the edges here, that's where probably 90% of it is, but it's 10% have gone everywhere. So it blends seamlessly into everything. There's that one. And then obviously this is the other one where it's a little bit more direct on here, So again, you can sort of see how it's working and going round and just covering up those heads and the various things to it on it, So yeah, it's a very similar way of doing it. To any other technique, but I just find it's more subtle. It just looks more natural than having it in scale. Yeah, I tell you what, Matt, it's a perfect way of describing it. It's in scale. That's the word I've been looking for, rather than having it where it's almost forced upon you. Because again, like with the dry brushing, if you overdo dry brushing, it's forced upon you. You're looking at dry brushing where you want it to be such a subtle thing that it's all in scale, it's all the same, and it is that thing that if you didn't have a cutting mat here and you had it just placed in front of you, you don't know what scale it is. Is it 70-second? Is it 30-second? You don't know. It could be anything. There's no way of knowing. And that's the type of effect I try and go for with my models, it's just to have it where you're not quite sure what it actually is, So again, it's just the subtle things, around all of these, to sort of make it pop and all the rest of it. So
another question: what colour would you use for DAC schemes? You got to think of your environment that you're in, aren't you?
Yeah,
don't you, as well.
Yeah.
Dusty,
as in
sandy.
Africa core.
Yeah.
As in weather in Africa core.
I think we're talking dust and that type of environment.
Yeah, it's going to be dust, isn't it? The thing is, I think that's again, people overdo that with sand, because they think it's in the desert, it's going to cover it in. It don't work like that, does it? Again, do some research and look at armored vehicles in a desert. You could look at the Gulf War, you could look in like any of the Middle Eastern stuff, and you will. It's going to be the same type of environment as like North Africa, and you'll get a thing of where the dust is, where it lies, what colour the dust is, all that sort of thing. Again,
but like if you got like oil stains, dust on lighten up oil stains.
But again, if you
still have
got
oil stains, but they'll.
Yeah, but again, you've got to think dust will cling to it, won't it? Because it's sticky.
Yeah.
So
hydraulic,
again, look at reference.
Things like that. Yeah. Again, I think that's the thing where I think people go wrong, is that when you come to sort of anything desert wise, and let's face it, there's lots of stuff going on with Afghan and stuff like that. First of all, you're quite correct. You need to do your research on the environment that vehicle's in, because the dust is dusty color. It's almost white, but people tend to always go with a yellow. But if you've ever been in those environments, you'll know full well, you start banging yourself, it's dust coming off of it. And again, if you're in Afghan, certain areas of Afghan, it's like walking on the freaking moon, because it is such a fine dust. It's like pigment. It gets everywhere on everything. So it bleaches everything as well, just because it's got dust on it. But when you come along and you start adding environments such as like hydraulic oil and normal oil and things like that and grease and stuff, they're not dark anymore because it's been stuck on with all this dusty stuff. They go lighter. But people still maintain it's a black lines and all these things. And actually it goes the other way because they're actually lighter when things are stuck to them. So again, it's references. Look at your references. You know, get pictures of things in theatre and then go from there.
Well, again, you know, because it's probably going to be sand-coloured paint, that's where you'd actually don't, in my personal view, don't need a lot of contrast, as in lightening it up, because obviously you're going to put white in it to lighten it, and then you, with dust is going to be lighter. You're going to lose the actual contrast of the weathering on it.
Yeah.
I will grab something out. Go on, sorry. I was about to say, I will grab something out of my cabinet where I've got the DAC armoured car that I did the base for, and I'll bring it in this afternoon, and then I'll show that, because it's on a desert base. So.
Classic example is when I did this one last year, we did the old Apache. The weather and environment for this is in a real dusty one. This is an Afghan one, and it's proper dusty and all the rest of it. So that's what we went with. So again, we got the original colour would almost be like almost a blacky colour, but it would stick everywhere. It's going to stick to the big flat areas as well as everything else. And to be honest, all of this dark area you can see down in here was all with oils. So this has got literally dry brushing all over it, and it's got the oils onto it and everything literally to go through to give it that type of look. So you can see up here on the front, I was trying to achieve that sort of dusty look that they get with actually going right the way over it with washes and oils and things like that. But again, other areas, so we've got the seam line down the bottom back here, and anything that's big, anything that's rivety has also got onto it. You can see in back here, again, with real big areas with that sort of dust effect. But that's all it was. You know, as you say, the original colour is very, very dark. But by the time we finished with it, with all the weathering, it had gone right the way through, you know?
Don't you think that's a horrible colour to work with, the original Hello Drab?
It's
awful.
That's it.
It's an awful colour to work with. It's got nothing in it, as in to go anywhere. I think it's one of them with like a sea blue. It's just a really difficult colour to not, I don't know, to take it away from its original colour. That's the thing. You really, But when you look at actual Apaches in real life and how Phil's done it is, that's where you then can go, right, I can go this direction or that direction, because they do weather and they do wear and whatever else, and they have touch ups and you know. So to me,
so like down on here, the classic example, this was a reference shot. So this here is a different panel, clearly from another helicopter that they've put onto it. But this, I took all my weathering cues from a photo. So this is where it's got it all on here. But again, this is a clear example of like, why has it got a dark bit here? It's of another one. The panel here at the back next to my finger, that was darker as well. So clearly, I think they were from something else that has been put on afterwards. And obviously it hasn't weathered in as much as the rest of it, you know? And again, things like the rocket pods and stuff like that. It's a case of, you know, again, my reference one's clearly got new rocket pods on it compared to old ones, you know? So they are sort of the original color versus the rest of it where, you know, it's all weathered in and all the rest, things like that. Right. Okay. So
I don't recognise.
Just to recap to where we were. So obviously we painted this base colour and we lightened the base colour a bit because I didn't have the right colour. All right. Then we've come back in and we've lightened up the centres of the panels, which are looking very nice, as you can see. We've also done this bit in here. So this has been drying, and hopefully you can see now what we were trying to achieve by this sort of shading and shadowing effect, and to give the first effects of grime technically down in here. So literally that's what we've done. So to follow that through, what we're going to do is we've got a couple of oils. So down in here, we've got light grey. To be honest, that's really light. It's like a blue grey. It's like a light ghost grey. But also we've got a neutral grey of these paint colours, which may or may not be still available. Don't know. I've got some of my finest brushes that some of the bristles point in the right direction. So I've got my chiseled one, which is good for getting in doing lines and corners. And I've got a big flat one, and I've got my stumpy one. Bristles and stuff like that. I don't own any dry brushing brushes. Call me tight, call me whatever, but I'm used to it. Call me Marjorie, it's fine. But I say I've never had a dry brushing brush, so I wouldn't know even if one works. So we don't put this stuff on cardboard. I know sometimes we talk about putting it onto cardboard first. That is to try and remove some of the linseed oil out of it to help this stuff dry faster. All right, so if you were doing like the dot technique and all the rest of it, which we've done on various shows before, then you would put it onto cardboard, let some of the oil leach out of it, so you're left with more of just the pigment and basically the paint. That way it just dries quicker. It dries within literally half an hour and away you go. Because we're using this for dry brushing, I want to keep the oil in so it keeps everything moist. Nice.
Nice.
We like moisture.
We do.
So we're going to start off with a bit of neutral. So it's a creamy buff colour, really. All right. So we're going to take Mr. Brush. We're going to take a bit on the brush, not tons of it, but what we need to do is prepare the brush. So we're coating all the bristles to soften them and for them to soak up the oil onto it. All right, so we're just going to get a bit of this and we're going to put it down onto here, onto a little bit of paper, and we are preparing the bristles basically. So you're making sure all of them are covered, all of them are moist, and it's ready to go. Stop sniggering at the back, Matthew. It's only moisture. Okay, so then we're going to rub it off, and basically it's not good for your brushes, admittedly, but been doing it for a while. I think I've still got a bit of black on this one, which isn't ideal, but it'll work. All right, so again, we're just taking some over. And normally what I do is I have 3 little pots of it down here. We have this one here, which we're now going to be getting it from. This one over here is for getting it all off. And then what we're doing, because we've got texture on the towel, it's quite good, because we can see that no matter how we rotate the brush, you shouldn't be getting anything really coming off of this, you know, because you want to have as little off of this as possible. So again, scrunch it, do it, because what you don't want to do is do an area and suddenly you get a lot more than you're expecting to come off. I wish the sun would go out because the sun's playing havoc now with the cameras. All right, so we're getting as much off as we possibly can. All right, I'm just going to come back and reload, only because I've got a little bit of black on this brush and I should have cleaned my brush beforehand, but hey, I forgot. All right, so we're just going to lighten this up. We just do this over here now. That's better. Most of the black's go. Okay. From all the angles, all the rest of it. So basically, no matter how we use the brush now, it should just come off. And you want to do it to literally, you've got nothing coming off. All right, that's where we want to be. Then we can come over to here. And then what we're going to do, very, very lightly, hold on, grab me other glasses, put the helmet cam on. I don't know if that might help with my light on as well. I don't know. Anyway, so what we're going to do is we're going to start to lightly going over. And the whole point is when you start this, you really shouldn't see anything, but it's going to be a gradual effect that as you keep going, you're suddenly going to start to build up with stuff. So again, because we've got the pointy one, means we can get in the corners. And obviously we need to go both directions. And we're starting to go over everything. And again. And what we're trying to do is just build up some of this area, and again we can go around very slowly. I want this to come up, not like you're using like an acrylic or anything else like that. It's a really slow journey as it comes up. What I'm going to do is, because of the contrast and with the light in here, I'm going to use a little bit of a lighter oil. So I'm going to use some of that bluey grey stuff as well, purely because this will show better on camera to show the effect. So let's get rid of all of that. Okay. All right. And again, even looking at it, it looks a little bit off. So you want to get as much off as the brush as possible. All right. And then we can start to, there we go. Now we're coming through. Now we're cooking. All right. So very, very lightly, right the way over. So we can pick out hoses and things like that as well by being very light and gentle. Latches. All right. So you can start to see, hopefully, I know because it's being a bit affected by the light in here, but it's starting to really come through. All right, so again, once we've got a bit on there, we can just come along. And it is the gift that keeps giving, because oils, unlike every other type of paints and things like that you traditionally do dry brushing with, do not stop. It just keeps giving and giving, and then what happens is, as it starts to wear off, you can get harder and harder with it, and you can literally brush more and more and get a bit more firm with it. So again, we're just going to go through like that. When we turn around, just remember to rotate, so obviously each side of the raised area gets a little bit as well, and this will lighten everything all around it as well. But it's great ways of doing hoses and the jobs on it, just like that. So again, doesn't look like you're doing too much until you grab the other one next to it, and you can see then how much difference it actually makes of bringing all that to life. So technically it's a little bit lighter than I normally do, but I'm trying to make sure you can see it on camera. But again, if you're doing hoses, this type of stuff around in here, dry brush it. If you try to do it with a pen, you know full well you're going to slip, you're going to go elsewhere. But if you dry brush with it, you can do it. And obviously you can dry brush any color as well. Well, as long as you've got the oil. All right, but there we go. So that shows you a bit of a before and after there of how much difference it makes. And what I will do, I will take a photo of this and I'll put them up afterwards so you can see it. But now it's really starting to make it all pop. All right, so we'll do the same on here. I'm not going to get any more oils or reload or anything else like that, because now, just because it's wearing out now, it means I can be a little bit more firm with it. And to be honest, you're better off having hardly any oils on here than you would be having lots of oils. So we're just going to pop around. We're going to come in amongst all the mechanism here. A little bit over stuff. And again, this will work really well, because now the mechanism for the first time will start to come alive, because obviously now we can see it, whereas before we couldn't see much of this mechanism. Suddenly this will enable it to sort of all pop and come to life. And again, don't be frightened of doing insides of panels. We've got some riveting down in here. We've got this little hose running down in here, so we will literally dry brush the hose, and hopefully the hose will all come to life nicely, as you can see. I will try and drop the camera a little bit more in a minute, see if I can get it even closer. So again, this little bar here, and again, this little grip. And again, remember to rotate, just so the dry brushing comes through from all the angles. Again, I want to get in here, so I use the pointy bit down in here, just to get with these rivet heads, all in these top areas. Rivets down in there. And again, a little bit of a light brush everywhere. All right, and I'll just drop the camera a tiny bit more, because I don't want to digitally try and enhance you, because trust me, it won't work. Hopefully this will work. Too close? Sorry, too close. Oh, not going to move that just a little bit.
That's all right.
There we go, we're in. So now you can sort of see what we're getting with those. So you can see how now it makes it really pop and start to come to life. And all we're using is greys. We're not going in with metals and silvers and all things like this, which really make it pop, because we still want it to be quite muted. And again, you can then go back with, once this is totally dry, you can go back with a pin wash and go right the way over it. As long as it's totally dry, you won't reactivate anything, and away you go. But again, good way of doing your wiring, especially if you can't get in there with a brush, you know, or a pen, or whichever way you want to do it and stuff like that. So for instance, this little bit of wiring here, I can see I've missed the back of it a little bit because I've been dry brushing the wrong way. So again, if we just go around the back of that now, so that wiring now shows all the way through from both directions with it. And again, the other thing as well, if you look at it, you see it's got a little bit of a shine, because where you're dry brushing it, you're polishing and you're making it quite shiny and come to life. Whereas before it's very dull, these were just XF paints. Now you've got a little bit of movement to it and a little bit of shine going on in here as well, which really brings it all to life. And again, if you've got something with a lot of stuff going on, so like this little gear down in here, As I say, still not loading up, still not putting any more on. You know, we can go down in here, and again, very lightly. And again, this is the secret to doing all this type of work, is not to overload and let it come to you, as I call it. So you're just dry brushing really lightly and slowly, not pushing too hard. You know, down in here, we've got a little bit of texture over this quilting. So we're going to give it some more texture, because if we do this, we will polish it and we'll make it shiny. I know one of the questions earlier was talking about being shiny and stuff. 1 second, I'll show you what we're up to. But hopefully, if I take this off, you can see down in here now, this quilting suddenly becomes quilting because it's had a little bit of dry brush and a little bit of movement onto it. And then again, we'll keep going just to prove the fact that these go on forever. This bit of piping down in here, we'll dry brush over that. We've got some switches and handles. And again, around the bolt heads and various things on this one. Got lots of stuff going on in here, so very lightly. But I would do probably all the wheel wells without reloading the brush. And then you'll hear me say when I do my full videos on this, I'll say about do an area to start with dry brushing on the bottom. So I'll dry brush here, somewhere you don't see. That way it just makes everything better, because you've got more control over what's going on, because it's not going to offload. But if I do this bit of hosing up here, these two little bits around here, a little bit on the back of the legs, bits on the side of the legs. But oils are the dream for doing any type of dry brushing, because they just keep giving and giving and giving. You know, they are fantastic. But they're my one way I do all pipes and hoses and stuff like that, because I can get around it with a dry brush and do all of this hosing work down in here. Yet if I was to do that with a pen, or God forbid if I was trying to get in here with a brush, because I'm hopeless with a brush, it would be everywhere. But you can actually really bring it to life. And again, what you can do, and is obviously my chosen tip as well, is that if you do go a little bit over, then obviously just give it another oil wash and it will darken up all the other areas, and the highlighted areas like here will then pop and come to life, you know. But again, just this thing of taking your time, building it up really nice and slowly, and then once it starts to wear down, you can really get amongst it. But having a chisel brush is good, because things like this I can get right in here. Yeah, if you've got a flat one, I can't do that, because I'll be putting too much in different areas and stuff like that. So again, really very, very nice for down in these. And again, we'll just give a little bit more around here. But this dry brushing has changed my modeling using oils, because before I was that person who would keep reloading all the time. Every 2 seconds, bit more acrylic, give it a rub, go again. And then you end up putting too much somewhere. But again, with this one now, as you can see, you come out with something very nice. So if we just pop this somewhat together, I can get my blue tack or white tack off.
Do you know, just quick and Phil, do you know when you dry brushing with acrylics, or used to,
Yeah.
Didn't you find they get chalky looking?
Yes,
Yeah.
and gritty. It's almost like a grittiness
Yeah,
as well.
because they
isn't it?
dry
It
so
doesn't
quick.
Smooth. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if we come in now, I'll get these to go in.
You need to use that now on your kit.
Yeah, that's it. It's a shame I've glued the wheel wells all together. There we go. That's it. And now, there you go. That is your wheel well taken care of. Just like that. Very nice indeed. And if you were coming through, I'll be posh now like they do on adverts, look. You know?
Yeah.
And again, we were just saying, literally, you know, just to recap, all this is straightforward. Paint it one colour, lighten it a little bit with obviously one of the primary colours that have made it. So in this case, we used a little bit of yellow. That way you don't get the sort of grey dull effect. It keeps the green. All right. Then straightforward with an oil wash, that just gives you your shadows and all the rest of it. And then we're just going to come back in with some dry brushing just to enhance all the highlights and make all the details pop, you know, right the way through. And literally that's all we've done. And then you end up something like that. And again, it's, if I was just not doing it to camera and obviously all the rest of it, this is literally a 5-minute job, you know, just to get in here and do it. Unfortunately though, like all good kits, by the time you put it together, you can't see any of it. but you know it's there.
That's
you
it.
know?
Get a photo.
Take a photo of it, yeah, so you know you've done it. But yeah, it is. It's one of those ones where, unfortunately, you lose a lot of this work. But one of the things I love about oil as well, you can see it quite nicely on here. You see, you get the little shine. You know, that will dull down, obviously, as the oil's dry, but it just looks really nice. You've got a little bit of light and a bit of movement to it, which is really, really nice. So yes, there we go. Dry brushing, Simples.
Well done.
Okay.
Nice.
Nicely done.
Yes.